Go for it.
Can you remember the first character or time that you felt represented, or the most impactful character that you can recall for yourself, like growing up?
I have never been asked before.
Perfect. I always want to ask questions people want to ask.
I love those. It might take me a minute though.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Now, I'm just going to talk out loud because I don't have an answer. But it's funny because I always grew up in Canada. It's mostly Anglophone, but there's some Francophone. Half my family is French Canadian. And then the other half are immigrants. I'm first generation from Italy. So I have this weird, I don't know, I don't quite feel Canadian, although I do now, but I'm saying growing up. I didn't quite feel Canadian, and I didn't feel Italian. So I had this weird not knowing where I lived sort of thing. I think the image that comes to mind is Buffy, because she was an outlier in her world, and she didn't quite fit in. And I don't know, I just remember really connecting with that character and wanting to be like her. And I don't know if that's all related, and I don't know if I think I felt represented, but more from a place of that she's an outsider too, and I really look up to her, so maybe it's okay to, I don't know. Is that
it's
an okay answer?
If you get a script, do you ever feel like, because Winona gets thrown horrible words at her all the time, do you ever feel like, do they have to say that to her all the time, all the whore and whatever, constantly?
You saying is she ever upset with
when she reads the script,
There was one script I had a really hard time with, which was I hated that character. It was I think his name was Jonas.
Oh, the Revenant.
The Revenant, who I thought maybe might be the death.
Yeah.
I hated him. I don't remember what he said.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I can't remember the words, but I
remember feeling icky about it.
It was disgusting. It was disgusting, and it was stuff like that. It just basically everything he said, and the guy who played it did a great job. I was like, I fucking hate you. Get off the set. But there was something very triggering about that, where, as a woman, you walk down the street, and when you're treated like property or whatever, I think that's what he was doing, was treating her like property. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much the words, it's because words, it's sometimes when people call you those things, you feel more powerful because you're like, oh, cute, you don't have the words to figure out. Somebody on Twitter recently was take a Midol, and I'm like, oh, you're so dumb. You don't even have a good argument, so you're just saying the stupidest, easiest thing. So sometimes words are not as, it's more just the behavior around them. The energy about it, and the intent with it.
So you feel like you're starting to see a little bit more diverse character breakdowns, or more in-depth character breakdowns in roles that you're looking at or reading for?
Now that you mention it, I haven't really been reading, as in auditioning. What I have noticed is and maybe take this with a grain of salt, I live in a bubble. I live in a very liberal bubble. So I don't know what the world actually is. But I know that my world has become very conscious of it, and always trying to, to flesh out stories in terms of any type of diversity, just not having the same sort of narratives. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah. I absolutely. I honestly, and maybe I'm just naive, I do feel like it's coming.
It's shifting.
Oh,
I think it's just
Like I can,
Slow.
I can.
I would say
it's
shifting.
happening a little bit.
you
at a
would
time.
too. That
Yeah.
feels good. That it's not just in my head.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
I have no doubt. And I don't know. Like I tend to. I don't think I'm being naive, and it makes me feel better that you guys think so too.
I don't think you're naive.
No, it's like it's because I, you know, certain things have happened in the world that were surprising. So it's like, oh, I live in a bubble. That's when I realized, like, I live in a bubble. So that's why I'm hesitant sometimes to
Well,
be
as
too.
I told you, I live in a small western Pennsylvania town. And
Yeah.
it's not uncommon for instance, the guy I worked with the other day said there was a bird flying around in our warehouse. He's like, I could go get my shotgun out of the truck. Like, that's not overly uncommon.
Yeah.
I get yelled at every time I walk into a bathroom.
Where?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
All the time. You don't belong here, and I turn around and they're like, oh, oops. Or my favorite, you get they'll open the door and they'll see you, and then they'll like
They'll
check the sign and then look at
Oh,
you.
that
and
is
check
always
the
so
sign.
much fun.
Like, you're like, hey, girls can have short hair too.
Yeah.
Even better, they walk out and then walk back in. That's always fun.
That's always fun. Just sorry, go ahead.
No, I am sorry to hear that. Yeah, like I said, I think I live in a bubble, and I think I like to see. But I do think there's a shift, and like as the more people, like we're at this festival, like people's parents, like I'm hearing stories of like such acceptance and like goosebumps, and like people being people's parents who maybe wouldn't have ever been accepting until their own child, you know, who they adore. They're like, oh, and then that spreads. I do think
It is shifting. Because
Yeah.
I've had people I've known my whole life who I know were against it, and slowly but surely they've come to cope.
Well, they have to because they know
Yeah.
because
Well,
they know
that
you.
wasn't even before they knew me. Like,
Oh, well, that's even better.
Like, it slowly
It's
but
like it's
surely-
impossible to. I feel like it's impossible to think that way
But I also
if
can say
you know the person, like you know the
it
stories.
took my dad 9 years to accept the fact that I was gay.
Yeah,
So, I don't know. It was very
not for every. I'm not saying for everybody, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
as a whole,
Oh yeah.
this is how I see it, and that's why I hope I'm not wrong.
No, most people, if it happens in your own family, you finally start to contemplate because you've known them their whole life.
That
Exactly.
person becomes the representation
Yes.
for an entire community.
It's not just an idea now. It's
Yeah.
like it takes for. It feels like it takes forever for
so
the
long to teach
the wheels to turn. But to your question, I think it's inevitable.
So how do you feel about watching the? I'm assuming you're learning about the impact on the LGBT community through
Oh, yeah.
working on Wine on Earth. Like, how has that felt like watching kind of that whole thing evolve and the impact that you guys are having? Like, I know that you're less like you're still very much attached to it, but not as in depth as like Cat and Dom.
Right. So I grew up with some of my friends being openly gay at a young age. So it was never, but having been friends with them and stuff, I never, I guess, heard the story from the outside in the sense of like, I don't know, we just knew each other for so long that, so now coming here and I get to hear stories and really like Emily, she was actually really helpful in, because I don't, just in general, news and industry stuff about the industry, except for like certain things. I'm sorry, I'm starting to babble. Try to be more concise. But Emily, when I think it was season 1. The barrier gaze thing had happened, and and I didn't know anything about it. And she was like, okay, so here's what happened. And she just really educated us. Like she didn't just write LGBT content, she is very much interested in how awful that whole narrative was of I didn't know that was a rule.
Yeah.
Exactly what you were saying. Or at least I think I've heard of it, but I in my head it was like, that can't be a real thing, you know what I mean? But anyway, so it's just opened my eyes in a way that I would have never known the real
Impact.
pulse. No, but the impact, like the like if you think of a uterus pulsing inside the woman, which we were just talking about at lunch, which is another story. But like that's the image of like there's a whole inner life.
Do you think it made it more memorable? Like, will this role go down in your memory even better just because you made this type of impact for
I mean, without a doubt.
one group?
Without a doubt. But it's also just feeling like it's just such an open, welcoming, a lot of cons. I don't know, I haven't quite put my finger on it yet because I don't know, but there's like a sharp edge sometimes to some of the fans. I don't know if it's just because they're like, talk faster, Melanie. I don't know how.
It's okay.
But there's like a coldness to it almost. But here it's just like this warm embrace. Like it's just it doesn't seem like anybody is excluded, and I think that's symbolic of our fandom, but I think more to the point, and I think it's why I had friends when I was little, it's more symbolic of the LGBT community, like
I would, yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah, not
I'm sure
everyone, but-
there's
some
always
is
exceptions,
in-
but I don't
It's
know.
like going to Pride, right? It's just like very inclusive. Like it doesn't really matter who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So they want us to hurry up. Can I just ask
Yeah,
like
go
one
ahead.
last? So,
Just
you want me to go first? Okay. How do you like? Man, I guess I'm trying to combine like 3 questions into one. Like knowing that you have like this, like the LGBT fans are notoriously loyal. How do you feel about knowing that any project that you move forward going on, like even though you're not playing a gay character, like you're still gonna have this contingent of fans that are gonna follow you? Do you think that will affect the roles that you'll take in the future, or will it be something that you consider about your roles in the future?
I don't know, because I've never pictured life beyond Winona. Like, will I even have a career? I don't know. That made my heart swell. That it feels like that makes me very happy. To think that there would be people following you.
oh yeah,
Oh, for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
I don't know because I can't think of the scenarios of like what I would be offered and how that would.
Could it maybe change? Like if you read a role that you knew had negative representation, would you maybe like be like, maybe I don't want to be a part of that project, or maybe kind of talk to them about the negative impact that they're going to have now that you're aware of it?
Oh, I don't think I would ever do something with negative representation. I hope, like, unless I completely just somehow didn't see it. Yeah, I think I've never been in the position where I've had to think about other people. Like, I literally was like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna take this role, until Winona. So I've never had to think about it. I would never take something I thought was disrespectful to anyone, unless I thought it shared a greater message, but But even that, you have to be careful because some people would then take it as like, see, we're right. You know what I mean? Like people are dumb. You have to hand up. Yes, of course. I would never have done that anyway.
Devil to take you